conduct toward me, which was scarcely consistent with the respect and regard that he felt for a lady who was soon to be his friend's wife. After some further discussion, Midwinter hit on a new suggestion which appeared to meet the difficulty. He proposed that Armadale should write to a respectable solicitor at Norwich, stating his position in general terms, and requesting that gentleman to act as Mr. Bashwood's adviser and superintendent when occasion required. Norwich being within an easy railway ride of Thorpe Ambrose, Armadale saw no objection to the proposal, and promised to write to the Norwich lawyer. Fearing that he might make some mistake if he wrote without assistance, Midwinter had drawn him out a draft of the necessary letter, and Armadale was now engaged in copying the draft, and also in writing to Mr. Bashwood to lodge the money immediately in Coutts's Bank. These details are so dry and uninteresting in themselves that I hesitated at first about putting them down in my diary. But a little reflection has convinced me that they are too important to be passed over. Looked at from my point of view, they mean this: that Armadale's own act is now cutting him off from all communication with Thorpe Ambrose, even by letter. He is as good as dead already to everybody he leaves behind him. The causes which have led to such a result as that are causes which certainly claim the best place I can give them in these pages. August 1st. Nothing to record, but that I have had a long, quiet, happy day with Midwinter. He hired a carriage, and we drove to Richmond, and dined there. After today's experience, it is impossible to deceive myself any longer. Come what may of it, I love him. I have fallen into low spirits since he left me. A persuasion has taken possession of my mind that the smooth and prosperous course of my affairs since I have been in London is too smooth and prosperous to last. There is something oppressing me to night, which is more than the oppression of the heavy London air. August 2nd, 3 o'clock. My presentiments, like other people's, have deceived me often enough, but I am almost afraid that my presentiment of last night was really prophetic, for once in a way. I went after breakfast to a milliner's in this neighborhood to order a few cheap summer things, and thence to Midwinter's hotel to arrange with him for another day in the country. I drove to the milliner's and to the hotel, and part of the way back. Then, feeling disgusted with the horrid close smell of the cab (somebody had been smoking in it, I suppose), I got out to walk the rest of the way. Before I had been 2 minutes on my feet, I discovered that I was being followed by a strange man. This may mean nothing but that an idle fellow has been struck by my figure, and my appearance generally. My face could have made no impression on him, for it was hidden as usual by my veil. Whether he followed me, in a cab of course, from the milliner's or from the hotel, I cannot say. Nor am I quite certain whether he did or did not track me to this door. I only know that I lost sight of him before I got back. There is no help for it but to wait till events enlighten me. If there is anything serious in what has happened, I shall soon discover it. 5 o'clock. It is serious. 10 minutes since, I was in my bedroom, which communicates with the sitting room. I was just coming out, when I heard a strange voice on the landing outside a woman's voice. The next instant the sitting room door was suddenly opened. The woman's voice said, "Are these the apartments you have got to let?" And though the landlady behind her answered, "No, higher up, ma'am," the woman came on straight to my bedroom, as if she had not heard. I had just time to slam the door in her face before she saw me. The necessary explanations and apologies followed between the landlady and the stranger in the sitting room, and then I was left alone again. I have no time to write more. It is plain that somebody has an interest in trying to identify me, and that, but for my own quickness, the strange woman would have accomplished this object by taking me by surprise. She and the man who followed me in the street are, I suspect, in league together, and there is probably somebody in the background whose interests they are serving. Is Mother Oldershaw attacking me in the dark? Or who else can it be? No matter who it is, my present situation is too critical to be trifled with. I must get away from this house to night, and leave no trace behind me by which I can be followed to another place. August 3rd, Gary Street, Tottenham Court Road. I got away last night, after writing an excuse to Midwinter, in which my invalid mother figured as the all sufficient cause of my disappearance, and I have found refuge here. It has cost me some money, but my object is attained. Nobody can possibly have traced me from All Saints' Terrace to this address. After paying my landlady the necessary forfeit for leaving her without notice, I arranged with her son that he should take my boxes in a cab to the cloak-room at the nearest railway station, and send me the ticket in a letter, to wait my application for it at the post-office. While he went his way in one cab, I went mine in another, with a few things for the night in my little handbag. I drove straight to the milliner's shop, which I had observed, when I was there yesterday, had a back entrance into a mews, for the apprentices to go in and out by. I went in at once, leaving the cab waiting for me at the door. "A man is following me," I said, "and I want to get rid of him. Here is my cab fare. Wait 10 minutes before you give it to the driver, and let me out at once by the back way." In a moment I was out in the mews. In another, I was in the next street. In a third, I hailed a passing omnibus, and was a free woman again. Having now cut off all communication between me and my last lodgings, the next precaution, in case Midwinter or Armadale are watched, is to cut off all communication, for some days to come at least, between me and the hotel. I have written to Midwinter, making my supposititious mother once more the excuse, to say that I am tied to my nursing duties, and that we must communicate by writing only for the present. Doubtful as I still am of who my hidden enemy really is, I can do no more to defend myself than I have done now. August 4th. The two friends at the hotel had both written to me. Midwinter expresses his regret at our separation in the tenderest terms. Armadale writes an entreaty for help under very awkward circumstances. A letter from Major Milroy has been forwarded to him from the great house, and he encloses it in his letter to me. Having left the seaside and placed his daughter safely at the school originally chosen for her, in the neighborhood of Ely, the major appears to have returned to Thorpe Ambrose at the close of last week. To have heard then, for the first time, the reports about Armadale and me, and to have written instantly to Armadale to tell him so. The letter is stern and short. Major Milroy dismisses the report as unworthy of credit, because it is impossible for him to believe in such an act of cold-blooded treachery as the scandal would imply if the scandal were true. He simply writes to warn Armadale that, if he is not more careful in his actions for the future, he must resign all pretensions to Miss Milroy's hand. "I neither expect nor wish for an answer to this," the letter ends, "for I desire to receive no more protestations in words. By your conduct, and by your conduct alone, I shall judge you as time goes on. Let me also add that I positively forbid you to consider this letter as an excuse for violating the terms agreed on between us by writing again to my daughter. You have no need to justify yourself in her eyes, for I fortunately removed her from Thorpe Ambrose before this abominable report had time to reach her, and I shall take good care, for her sake, that she is not agitated and unsettled by hearing it where she is now. Armadale's petition to me, under these circumstances, entreats, as I am the innocent cause of the new attack on his character, that I will write to the major to absolve him of all indiscretion in the matter, and to say that he could not, in common politeness, do otherwise than accompany me to London. I forgive the impudence of his request, in consideration of the news that he sends me. "It is certainly another circumstance in my favor.